Many people are trying to sound powerful before they have become settled in who sent them. Write this down, please. Leadership is not first a sound. Leadership is first a state. Leadership is not noise. Leadership is not performance. Leadership is not argument. Leadership is not self-advertisement. Leadership begins with presence. Before a leader opens his mouth, something about his spirit should already be speaking. Before he explains himself, something about his posture should already be announcing that he is not confused about his origin, his assignment, or his authority. You see, religion trains men to beg to be noticed. Religion makes you nervous when nobody claps. Religion makes you panic when nobody calls your name. Religion makes you perform because you are trying to prove that you belong. But the kingdom does not begin with performance. The kingdom begins with position. An ambassador does not walk into a room hoping the room will authorize him. No. He walks in because his government already authorized him. He does not need the room to make him valid. He carries validity from the country that sent him. Say this loud. Confidence is not volume. Confidence is alignment. Come on, say it again. Confidence is not volume. Confidence is alignment. A man can be loud and still be insecure. A woman can talk all day and still be afraid. Noise is not proof of authority. Sometimes noise is the evidence that authority is missing. When a person is not settled in identity, they must keep announcing themselves. They must keep defending themselves. They must keep reacting to every look, every comment, every delay, every rejection, every closed door. But when a person knows I have been sent, they do not have to wrestle for every inch of respect. This is the opening revelation. Quiet confidence is not silence from fear, it is silence from identity. It is not the silence of a man who has nothing to say. It is the silence of a man who knows that when the time comes to speak, he will not speak as a victim, he will speak as a representative. There is a difference. One man is quiet because he is intimidated. Another man is quiet because he is governed. One man is quiet because he is afraid of people. Another man is quiet because he is aware of the king. So the question we must answer in this teaching is not how do I make people respect me? That is a poor question. That is a religious question. That is the question of insecurity. The real question is, how does a leader carry authority before he speaks, before he explains, before he defends himself? How do you enter a boardroom, a family meeting, a ministry assignment, a job interview, a difficult conversation, and carry a weight that does not come from arrogance? How do you stand there without bragging, without shrinking, without fighting, without advertising yourself, and yet the atmosphere knows that someone under authority has arrived? Stay with this teaching, because we are going to recover something religion stole from many people: your kingdom identity. And if this kingdom perspective is helping you recover who you are, subscribe and continue this journey with us, because you cannot represent a kingdom you have not rediscovered. And I want you to put this declaration in the comments. I will represent before I react. Write it as a decree over your own spirit. I will represent before I react. Leadership is presence before it is speech. Leadership is government before it is gifting. Leadership is identity before it is influence. If you must shout to prove you are powerful, you have not yet understood authority. Kings do not advertise crowns. Ambassadors do not manufacture credentials. They simply represent. And from this moment, may your spirit become so settled in the one who sent you that even your silence begins to command respect. Now, if leadership begins with presence, then presence must be rooted in representation, not personality. Write that down, please. Presence must be rooted in representation, not personality. Because if your presence is rooted in your personality, then you will always be under pressure to perform. You will always need the room to respond. You will always need somebody to notice your gift, affirm your face, agree with your opinion, approve your clothes, celebrate your title. That is too unstable. That is not kingdom. That is insecurity dressed in leadership clothing. An ambassador is not a private citizen trying to promote himself. An ambassador is a legal representative of a sovereign government. He does not come in his own name. He does not speak from his own opinion. He does not carry his own agenda. He has been appointed, authorized, sent, and backed by a government greater than himself. When he arrives, he may look like one man, but legally, he is not just one man. A country has entered the room. A government has entered the room. A constitution has entered the room. Authority has entered the room through a human body. This is why the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5:20, we are ambassadors for Christ. Underline that in your spirit. We are ambassadors, not beggars, not religious performers, not spiritual entertainers, not insecure people trying to get the world to clap. Ambassadors. That means heaven places representation inside human bodies on earth. Oh, you missed that. Heaven decided that it would become visible in meetings, visible in homes, visible in offices, visible in courtrooms, visible in businesses, visible in conflict, visible in neighborhoods, by placing its citizens in those environments. So when you walk into your workplace, heaven has representation there. When you enter that meeting, heaven has representation there. When you come into your family situation, heaven has representation there. When you stand in the middle of a conflict and you refuse to become common, heaven has representation there. Tell your neighbor, a country just walked in. Come on, say it like you believe it. A country just walked in. That is not arrogance. That is legal consciousness. That is kingdom identity. You do not become authoritative by demanding respect. You become authoritative by knowing who you represent. Demanding respect is what insecure people do when they have not discovered their source. They say, do you know who I am? That is the wrong question. The kingdom question is, do I know who sent me? Because if I know who sent me, I do not have to beg you to recognize me. My worth was established before I entered your room. My value was settled before I heard your opinion. My credentials came from the king before I met the crowd. This is why ambassadors do not walk into foreign offices asking people to validate their worth. They do not stand at the door saying, please accept me, please notice me, please make me important. No, their government already made them important by sending them. Their assignment gives them weight. Their authorization gives them dignity. Their country gives them backing. If the receiving room dishonors the ambassador does not become less valid. The room becomes guilty of dishonoring the government he represents. Are you with me? This is why you must stop allowing rooms to decide your identity. Stop allowing people's moods to decide your confidence. Stop allowing one manager, one relative, one critic, one rejection, one delayed opportunity to tell you whether you are significant. You are not a private citizen of earth trying to survive by human applause. You are a kingdom citizen carrying the interests of the king. Your confidence is not in your resume alone. Your confidence is not in your personality alone. Your confidence is not in your charisma alone. Your confidence is in representation. Now let me make a distinction. Because some people confuse kingdom confidence with arrogance. Arrogance says, look at me. Ambassadorship says, look at the one who sent me. Arrogance magnifies self. Ambassadorship reveals source. Arrogance needs attention. Ambassadorship carries assignment. Arrogance is loud because it is empty. Ambassadorship can be quiet because it is backed. There is a difference. A proud man wants the room to serve his ego. A kingdom man wants the room to encounter his king. That is why true authority never has to become theatrical. A king does not need to convince you that he is king by behaving small. An ambassador does not need to fight for recognition like a man with no government. If you have to manipulate every conversation until people see you, you have not rested in who sent you. If you have to mention your title every 5 minutes, something is wrong with your identity. If you must constantly announce your importance, perhaps you are not yet settled in your representation. The Bible is not about religion. It is about a king and a kingdom. And in that kingdom, the king does not merely save people so they can wait to escape earth. He restores them to rulership, representation, and responsibility. The first Adam lost dominion. The second Adam restored dominion. And now the king says, I am sending you, not just to talk, not just to sing, not just to attend meetings. I am sending you to represent another government in the middle of this one. So the next time you enter a room, do not enter as a reaction. Enter as representation. Do not enter begging to be impressive. Enter conscious that heaven has placed a deposit in you. Do not enter asking, will they like me? Ask, will I represent him accurately? That question will change your posture. It will govern your tone. It will settle your eyes. It will clean your motives. It will deliver you from the addiction to applause. Say this loud. I do not manufacture authority. I represent authority. Say it again. I do not manufacture authority. I represent authority. That is the secret of quiet confidence. You are not trying to become big in the room. You are becoming faithful to the one who is bigger than every room. And when a man understands that, he stops chasing respect and begins carrying substance. Because the ambassador's dignity is not self-created. It is conferred, it is given, it is sent. And when you know who sent you, your presence begins to speak before your mouth ever opens. Now that is why the next evidence of authority is not how much you can say, but how much you can govern. Write this down, please. The quiet man is not empty, he is governed. Silence is not always the absence of thought. Sometimes silence is the presence of order. Sometimes silence means there is a government operating on the inside that refuses to let the tongue become a rebel. Are you with me? A quiet spirit is not a weak spirit when that quietness is born out of discipline, identity, and spiritual order. The kingdom of God is first government before it is expression. That is very important. The kingdom is not first a song, first a shout, first a sermon, first a platform, first a microphone. The kingdom is first government. Thy kingdom come means thy government come, thy rule come, thy order come, thy authority come. And if the kingdom has not come to your tongue, then do not ask for it to come through your ministry. If the king cannot govern your mouth in a private conversation, why should he trust your mouth on a public platform? Say this loud. My tongue must come under government. Say it again. My tongue must come under government. A man who cannot govern his tongue cannot represent a king. He may represent his pain. He may represent his anger. He may represent his insecurity. He may represent his childhood wounds. He may represent his need to be seen, but he cannot accurately represent the king if every emotion has permission to use his mouth. The ambassador does not speak because he feels something. He speaks because he has been authorized to represent something. Proverbs 17:27 says, he who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Underline calm spirit. The Bible connects understanding with calmness. It connects knowledge with restraint. That means wisdom does not always increase your speaking. Sometimes wisdom reduces your speaking. The more you understand, the less you need to prove. The more you know, the less you rush. The more governed you become, the less your words leak out of you without permission. This is why some people are noisy, not because they are powerful, but because there is disorder inside. They must answer quickly because they have not settled the matter inwardly. They must interrupt because they are afraid their value will disappear if they wait. They must explain everything because they are still trying to be believed. They must correct every accusation because they have no inner court where the matter has already been judged. Noise can be evidence of a soul with no government. Insanity. To live under the king and still let every mood become a decree. You see, a kingdom leader does not treat his mouth as public property. No. His mouth belongs to the king. His words are not cheap. His answers are not impulsive. His tone is not unmanaged. His silence is not confusion. His silence is consultation. He is listening inwardly before he speaks outwardly. He is asking, what represents the king here? What reveals the culture of heaven here? What answer carries righteousness, peace, and truth here? He is not simply trying to win the argument. He is trying to preserve the dignity of the government that sent him. That is why an ambassador listens before answering. He cannot afford to speak merely as a private individual. If you insult him, he cannot just say what his flesh wants to say. If you provoke him, he cannot just release whatever his ego prepared. If you misunderstand him, he cannot become common just to defend himself. Why? Because he is carrying another country's mind, another country's culture, another country's policy. When an ambassador speaks, his nation is speaking through him. When you speak, the question is not, did I express myself? The question is, did I represent the king? Some of you are asking God for a bigger platform, but you have not yet asked him for a governed spirit. You are asking for more people to hear you, but heaven is still working on whether your emotions can obey you. You are asking for influence, but your anger still has a key to your mouth. You are asking for visibility, but your insecurity still writes your responses. Before you ask God to enlarge your audience, ask him to enlarge your capacity for self-government. Before you ask for a microphone, ask for mastery. Before you ask for doors, ask for discipline. Because quiet authority is the sound of a soul that has come under government. It is not emptiness. It is not timidity. It is not fear. It is the sound of a man who has already been ruled by the king before he tries to rule anything else. Dominion begins inside. If you cannot have dominion over your tongue, do not talk about having dominion over territory. If you cannot manage your reaction, do not boast about managing nations. The first territory God wants to govern through you is you. So the next time you are tempted to answer quickly, pause. The next time you're tempted to defend your image, pause. The next time your flesh says, say something now, let the government of God rise up in your spirit and say, not yet. That pause is not weakness. That pause is power under law. That pause is the king protecting his representative from becoming common. Give the Lord praise if you understand this. A governed man may be quiet, but do not mistake his quietness for emptiness. His silence is full of order. His calmness is full of understanding. And when he finally speaks, he will not speak from reaction. He will speak from government. Now this brings us to the next law of quiet authority. Write this down, please. Respect follows substance, not self-promotion. Respect is not something the ambassador chases. Respect is something attracted to the weight he carries. In this generation, people are trying to build influence by becoming visible before they become valuable. They want platforms before principles. They want titles before training. They want microphones before maturity. They want followers before faithfulness. Insanity. Visibility can expose you, but it cannot give you weight. A spotlight only reveals what is already there. In the kingdom, visibility is never a substitute for weight. Title is never a substitute for character. You can call yourself a leader and still be light. You can have a position and still have no presence. You can have a business card, an office, a pulpit, a page, a following, and still carry no authority in your spirit. Why? Because authority is not printed on paper. Authority is carried in substance. The kingdom does not respect image without integrity. Heaven is not impressed by noise. Heaven measures weight. An ambassador is respected not because he is loud, but because he carries credentials. When he walks into a foreign room, he does not have to shout, respect me. He presents his credentials. His government has already examined him, selected him, authorized him, and trusted him with representation. That is why he can be quiet. His credentials speak. His authorization speaks. His discipline speaks. His assignment speaks. Are you with me? A man with credentials does not need theatrics. Now, what are your spiritual credentials? Not your gift alone, not your talent alone, not your charisma alone. Your credentials are character, consistency, restraint, integrity, competence, and obedience to the king. Character is who you are when nobody is applauding. Consistency is who you remain when seasons change. Restraint is power that refuses to become reckless. Integrity is alignment between your private life and your public message. Competence is the excellence that proves you took the assignment seriously. Obedience is your refusal to represent yourself when the king gave you instructions. Say this loud. My character is part of my credentials. Say it again. My character is part of my credentials. Some people want respect, but their character keeps disqualifying their request. They want people to trust their words, but their life has been arguing against their mouth. They want honor, but they are careless. They want influence, but they are unstable. They want to lead, but they cannot be corrected. They want a crown, but they will not submit to government. You cannot demand from people what your substance has not earned. There is a difference between reputation and representation. Reputation is what people say about you. Representation is what heaven trusts you to carry. Reputation can be edited. Representation must be proven. Reputation can be built with an image. Representation is built with obedience. Reputation may get you into a room, but representation determines what you carry when you get there. Do not spend your life polishing what people say while neglecting what heaven sees. This is why Jesus said, by their fruit you shall know them. Not by their noise, not by their branding, not by their claims. Fruit is substance made visible. Fruit is character with evidence. Fruit is life producing after its kind. A kingdom leader does not merely advertise values, he embodies them. He does not merely speak about peace, he carries peace. He does not merely teach wisdom, he walks in wisdom. He does not merely quote the king, he represents the king. Let me give you a practical example. You are in a meeting and someone speaks first because they are afraid of being overlooked. They rush, they interrupt, they repeat themselves. They try to dominate the room because they think dominance is authority. But then another person waits. He listens. He studies the matter. He discerns the atmosphere. And when the moment comes, he speaks last with clarity, precision, and calm. Suddenly, the room turns. Why? Because authority was not in the speed of speech. Authority was in the weight of substance. The person who speaks first from insecurity may fill the air, but the person who speaks last from wisdom can govern the room. Do you understand? Timing reveals government. Clarity reveals preparation. Restraint reveals maturity. Substance does not panic because substance knows it will be recognized when the right moment comes. Empty people rush to be seen. Weighty people wait to be accurate. So stop chasing respect. Build substance. Stop begging people to call you important. Become faithful. Stop trying to convince every room that you are powerful. Let your discipline testify. Let your consistency testify. Let your restraint testify. Let your work testify. Let your obedience testify. An ambassador does not chase honor through self-promotion. He carries honor through representation. And I prophesy this over your life. May your presence become heavier than your announcement. May your character become louder than your advertisement. May your silence carry more dignity than another man shouting. May heaven trust you with rooms because heaven has first governed your spirit. Because respect is not chased by the ambassador. Respect is attracted to substance. And when substance enters quietly, even before it speaks, the room begins to recognize that a representative of another government has arrived. Now listen carefully, because wherever representation enters, conflict will eventually test it. If you carry substance, someone will misunderstand it. If you carry authority, someone will challenge it. If you carry dignity, someone will ignore it. Do not think that because you are an ambassador, everybody will clap. No. The presence of a representative exposes disorder. Sometimes your calm will disturb people who are addicted to reaction. Write this down, please. Personal offense must never govern public conduct. The immature leader reacts to every slight. He must answer every rumor. He must correct every insult. He must defend every look, every tone, every delay, every closed door. Why? Because his image is his idol. But an ambassador does not live from image, he lives from assignment. Ambassadors do not fight like private citizens. Say that loud. Ambassadors do not fight. Why? Because when an ambassador responds, his nation is responding through him. If he becomes reckless, he misrepresents his government. If he becomes common, he reduces the dignity of the country that sent him. If he allows anger to dictate his behavior, he has allowed a foreign atmosphere to govern a kingdom representative. Insanity. This is why you cannot afford to let every provocation become your pulpit. Every argument is not your assignment. Every critic is not your classroom. Every insult is not a command from heaven to respond. Some battles are traps designed to drain kingdom energy from kingdom purpose. The enemy would love for you to spend your anointing proving your image instead of fulfilling your assignment. Quiet confidence does not mean passivity. It means strategic, governed response at the right time with the right spirit for the right purpose. There is a time to speak, but there is also a time to let your silence protect your authority. There is a time to answer, but there is also a time to let your fruit testify. There is a time to correct, but there is also a time to refuse to reduce yourself to the level of the conflict. When you know heaven backs your assignment, you do not need to fight every battle for your image. Let them misunderstand for a season. Let them talk for a season. Let them underestimate for a season. Your king is not confused. Your credentials are not canceled by their opinion. Your assignment is not weakened by their attitude. You are not sent by the crowd, so do not be governed by the crowd. Tell your neighbor, I will not waste kingdom energy. Come on, say it again. I will not waste kingdom energy. Your strength is too valuable to spend it on arguments that do not advance purpose. Your words are too costly to throw them into every emotional marketplace. Your peace is too royal to be auctioned to every offended person who wants a reaction. So walk in dignity. Respond when the king authorizes response. Speak when truth requires speech. Correct when purpose demands correction. But never fight merely because your ego was touched. Ambassadors do not fight for personal recognition. They represent governmental authority. And when you remember who sent you, even your refusal to fight becomes evidence that another kingdom is present. Now, if ambassadors do not fight for personal recognition, then ambassadors must also learn the discipline of timing. Write this down, please. The power to speak comes from the discipline to wait. A word can be true and still be premature. A statement can be correct and still be released in the wrong spirit. The right word in the wrong moment can lose its authority because timing is part of wisdom. In the kingdom, truth is not only what you say, truth is also when you say it, how you say it, and why you say it. James 1:19 gives us a governmental law for the mouth. It says, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Underline that, please. Quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. That is not weakness. That is protocol. Heaven is teaching you the order of a governed representative. First listen, then wait, then control anger. Why? Because anger wants to become your spokesman before wisdom has arrived. Pressure wants to write policy before principle has spoken. Emotion wants to grab the microphone before the king's position is clear. Say this loud. I will not let pressure become my policy. Come on, say it again. I will not let pressure become my policy. That is important because many people are not led by conviction. They are led by pressure. Somebody pressures them, they answer. Somebody accuses them, they explain. Somebody challenges them, they react. Somebody raises their voice, they raise theirs. That means the atmosphere is governing them. That means the room has become their king. Insanity. A kingdom citizen cannot let a foreign atmosphere determine his behavior. An ambassador does not speak because pressure demands it. He speaks because the king's position is clear. He does not answer just because someone asks loudly. He does not respond just because someone provoked him publicly. He does not make decisions because the crowd is impatient. He waits until he knows what accurately represents the government that sent him. If the king has not authorized the tone, do not use it. If the king has not authorized the timing, do not rush it. If the king has not authorized the answer, keep listening. Silence is not always delay. Sometimes silence is intelligence gathering. When you are quiet, people reveal themselves. When you do not rush to fill the space, motives begin to appear. When you refuse emotional performance, the real issue rises to the surface. Some people want your answer, but they also want your reaction. They want to pull you out of government and into drama. But a wise leader lets silence do some work. Silence gathers facts. Silence studies patterns. Silence discerns spirit. Silence protects peace. Silence gives wisdom time to rise. But This is why the leader who can wait before speaking often speaks with the authority others lost by rushing. The first person to speak is not always the wisest. Sometimes the first person to speak is only the most anxious. They rushed because they were afraid of being forgotten. They rushed because they wanted control. They rushed because anger gave them energy. But after all the noise is finished, a governed person can speak one sentence and bring order to the whole room. Why? Because he did not spend his authority in the first wave of emotion. In daily leadership, this is practical. Before you reply to that message, pause. Before you answer that accusation, pause. Before you make that decision, because everybody is pushing you, pause. Ask better questions. What is really happening here? What principle should govern this decision? What does righteousness require? What answer preserves peace without compromising truth? What response represents the king? You see, questions slow down the flesh and make room for wisdom. A fool answers before he hears. A leader hears before he answers. Some of you have lost authority because you spoke too soon. You explained before you understood. You promised before you counted the cost. You rebuked before you discerned the motive. You defended yourself before you asked whether the matter even deserved your energy. And now you are asking God to restore weight to your voice. Start with waiting. Start with listening. Start with refusing to let anger draft your sentences. Start with bringing your tongue back under the government of the king. Quiet confidence is not the absence of an answer. It is the discipline to hold the answer until the right moment. It is the strength to know something and not need to prove that you know it immediately. It is the maturity to be misunderstood for a moment rather than misrepresent the king forever. Are you with me? Every delay is not denial. Sometimes delay is dignity. Sometimes delay is mercy. Sometimes delay is the king saving you from using a right word in a wrong way. So this week, carry yourself as one under orders. Walk into the meeting quick to hear. Enter the conversation slow to speak. Face provocation, slow to anger. Let your silence gather intelligence. Let your question expose motive. Let your peace remain protected. Let your decisions come from principle, not panic. And when you finally speak, do not speak to perform. Speak to represent. Speak with weight. Speak with accuracy. Speak with timing. Because in the kingdom, the man who can wait has already proven he is not ruled by pressure. And when a man is not ruled by pressure, his words begin to carry the authority of the king who sent him. Now, if the power to speak comes from the discipline to wait, then the purpose of that discipline is not to disappear. Quiet confidence is not hiding. Write this down, please. Quiet confidence is the invisible government of the kingdom becoming visible through conduct. You are not quiet because you have nothing to reveal. You are quiet because your life is supposed to reveal more than your mouth. An ambassador does not merely carry a message. He becomes evidence of the country that sent him. When he enters a room, he carries culture. He carries protocol. He carries values. He carries the atmosphere of his government. The way he listens reveals where he is from. The way he dresses reveals where he is from. The way he decides, the way he honors, the way he works, the way he forgives, the way he responds under pressure. All of it is saying, I belong to another kingdom. Are you with me? Jesus said in Matthew 5, you are the light of the world. Underline that, please. He did not say you are trying to become light. He said you are light. Then he said, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father. Light does not argue with darkness. Light does not beg darkness to respect it. Light does not panic because darkness is present. Light shines consistently, quietly, faithfully. And when light is present, darkness loses its authority. That means your presence should create atmosphere. When you walk in, peace should enter confusion. Clarity should enter noise. Order should enter disorder. Dignity should enter dishonor. You are not supposed to become like every room you enter. No, no. You are sent into rooms so the rooms can experience the culture of the king. If the room is angry, you do not borrow its anger. If the room is fearful, you do not borrow its fear. If the room is common, you do not become common. A country has walked in. Now be careful. Some people are trying to look important, but they have neglected spiritual culture. They have the image, but not the obedience. They have the clothes, but not the character. They have the vocabulary, but not the values. They have the platform, but not the government. Heaven is not impressed by image without obedience. Insanity to wear the badge of the kingdom and carry the culture of the world. Say this loud. I must reveal where I am from. Say it again. I must reveal where I am from. In your manhood, reveal the kingdom. In your leadership, reveal the kingdom. In your family, reveal the kingdom. In your business, reveal the kingdom. In your ministry, reveal the kingdom. In your community, reveal the kingdom. Let your children feel government, not intimidation. Let your wife feel honor, not ego. Let your team feel clarity, not confusion. Let your clients feel integrity, not manipulation. Let your enemies feel restraint, not revenge. This is what makes quiet authority powerful. It is not just that you refuse to react. It is that your restraint makes another government visible. Your calm says heaven is here. Your patience says righteousness is here. Your excellence says order is here. Your forgiveness says mercy is here. Your consistency says the king is reliable. You are the evidence. So this week, do not just walk into rooms trying to be noticed. Walk in representing. Let people feel that a different government entered when you arrived. Let them say there is something about his spirit. There is something about her conduct. There is something about the way they carry pressure. That is kingdom presence. That is visible representation. And when your life reveals the culture of the kingdom, respect will not have to be demanded. It will recognize the king who sent you. Now that your presence reveals the culture of the kingdom, you must understand what that culture was created to carry. Go back to Genesis 1:26. Write this down, please. God said, let them have dominion, not let them have religion. Not let them have ceremonies, not let them have empty titles. Let them have dominion. The original purpose of man was rulership under divine authority on earth. God created man to represent heaven's government in the earth realm. That means Adam did not fall from a religion. Say that loud. Adam did not fall from a religion. He fell from dominion. He fell from government. He fell from assignment. He lost the authority to represent the invisible king in the visible territory. So when Jesus came, he did not come merely to make you religious. He came to restore what man lost. Forgiveness, yes, but also authority, identity, responsibility, assignment, and representation. You were not born again just to attend meetings. You were restored to carry government. The second Adam came to bring man back to the place where the first Adam failed. That is why Jesus could say, I confer on you a kingdom, not a feeling, not a denomination, not a Sunday habit, a kingdom. Are you with me? He restored you to rulership under the king. But here is the problem. Many people want dominion over rooms, dominion over business, dominion over ministry, dominion over nations, but they have no dominion over reaction. Insanity. You cannot rule environments if circumstances still rule you. You cannot govern territory if criticism governs your mood. You cannot represent heaven if intimidation can change your voice. The first place dominion must be restored is not your office, it is your spirit. Write this down, please. Dominion begins where reaction ends. When you stop being controlled by what happens around you, authority begins to rise within you. If applause can control you, you are not yet free. If criticism can control you, you are not yet free. If rejection can control you, you are not yet free. If urgency can control you, you are not yet free. If intimidation can control you, you are not yet free. A kingdom citizen is not supposed to be governed by foreign atmospheres. This is why composure is not personality. Composure is dominion made visible. When pressure comes and you remain governed, the room sees that something higher than the room is ruling you. When people shout and you stay clear, they discover that their volume is not your king. When they accuse and you remain righteous, they discover that their opinion is not your government. When they threaten and you remain steady, they discover that fear has no throne in you. Quiet confidence commands respect. because it proves circumstances are not governing the leader. Anybody can be calm when everything agrees with him. Anybody can smile when he is praised. Anybody can sound wise when the room is friendly. But put a man under pressure, touch his ego, delay his promise, question his competence, ignore his contribution, then you will see whether he has religion or government. Religion performs when conditions are favorable. Kingdom governs when conditions are hostile. That is why Jesus slept in a storm. The storm was real, but the storm was not his ruler. The wind was loud, but the wind was not his king. The waves were violent, but the waves did not become his government. He got up and spoke peace because peace was already governing him before he released it around him. You cannot release what has not first ruled you. Say this loud. I must be ruled before I rule. Say it again. I must be ruled before I rule. This is the secret of restored dominion. The king rules you, then he rules through you. His peace rules you, then peace enters the room through you. His wisdom rules you, then wisdom enters the decision through you. His righteousness rules you, then righteousness enters the conflict through you. Dominion is not domination. Dominion is authorized influence under divine government. So do not confuse composure with weakness. A composed man may be the most dangerous man in the room because he is not available to manipulation. You cannot buy him with applause. You cannot break him with criticism. You cannot rush him with urgency. You cannot shrink him with intimidation. He has already received his identity from another government. A country is standing there quietly. That is why you must stop letting people pull you out of your assignment through reaction. Some people do not have enough authority to stop your destiny, so they try to disturb your composure. If they can make you react, they can make you misrepresent. If they can make you panic, they can make you surrender government. If they can make you fight for your image, they can pull you away from your assignment. But when you remain composed, you keep dominion. This week, practice rulership. Rule your face. Rule your tone, rule your timing, rule your answer, rule your silence, rule your appetite for approval, rule your fear of rejection, rule your need to explain everything. Rule your anger before it tries to rule the room. This is not small, this is kingdom training. The man who can govern himself under pressure is being prepared to govern greater territory. Lift your hands for a moment and say, I receive restored dominion. Not domination, not ego, not control over people. Restored dominion. Authority under the king. Responsibility under the king. Representation under the king. You were created to carry heaven's government into earth's pressure without becoming a victim of the pressure. You were not created to be controlled by applause, criticism, rejection, urgency, or intimidation. You were created to have dominion. So when you walk into the next room, do not enter as a slave to atmosphere. Enter as one restored to authority. Let your composure preach before your mouth opens. Let your restraint testify before your title is announced. Let your calm declare that the king has governed you. Because dominion begins where reaction ends. And when reaction ends, the ambassador becomes visible again. Now, if the ambassador becomes visible again, then he must begin to move intentionally. This is practical now. Before you enter that room, before you enter that meeting, before you enter that conversation, before you enter that interview, before you enter that conflict, before you enter that family moment, remember this: you are sent, not stranded. Write that down, please. Sent, not stranded. You are not walking in as a victim of whatever is waiting for you. You are walking in as a representative of the government that assigned you. You move differently when you remember you were sent. A stranded man begs the room for mercy. A sent man brings the king's interest into the room. A stranded man asks, will they accept me? A sent man asks, how must I represent? A stranded man is controlled by atmosphere. A sent man carries atmosphere. This is why you must stop shrinking in rooms where God assigned you to reveal his nature, his wisdom, his purpose, and his order. If he sent you there, he expected something in him to be seen through you there. So develop ambassador habits. Prepare privately. Listen carefully. Speak sparingly. Answer with clarity. Keep your emotions submitted. Leave the atmosphere better than you found it. That is not complicated, but it is governmental. Do not walk into serious rooms casually. Do not walk into divine assignments unprepared. Confidence increases when preparation meets identity. Some people are not humble, they are unprepared. Some people are not quiet, they are empty. You cannot represent well what you have not studied, practiced, and embodied. An ambassador studies the position of his government before he speaks for it. He does not invent policy in the meeting. He does not guess the will of the king. He prepares. So study the word, study wisdom, study your assignment, study the people you are called to serve. Study your craft, practice excellence, practice restraint, practice clear answers, practice honorable presence. Then when you walk in, your confidence is not noise. Your confidence is agreement between identity and preparation. Say this loud. I was sent. Come on, say it again. I was sent. When you walk into work, purpose is walking in. When you walk into your home, order is walking in. When you walk into conflict, peace is walking in. When you walk into confusion, clarity is walking in. When you walk into dishonor, dignity is walking in. When you walk into pressure, government is walking in. A country has entered quietly. Now, do not make this mystical and ignore conduct. If you are sent, show up on time. If you are sent, keep your word. If you are sent, control your tone. If you are sent, do not gossip in the room you were assigned to heal. If you are sent, do not pollute the atmosphere you were supposed to improve. If you are sent, do not let your anger become louder than your assignment. Your presence must make the king easier to recognize, not harder. Some of you have been entering rooms asking to be noticed, and that is why you keep losing peace. You want them to see your gift, your title, your intelligence, your sacrifice, your pain. But the issue is no longer whether people notice you. The issue is whether they encounter the king through you. Are you with me? If they encounter pride, you misrepresent it. If they encounter insecurity, you misrepresent it. If they encounter revenge, you misrepresent it. But if they encounter peace, wisdom, order, patience, courage, and truth, then heaven has been represented. So before you walk in, pause. Remind your soul, I am under government. Before you answer, pause. Remind your mouth, you are not independent. Before you react, pause. Remind your emotions, you are submitted to the king. Before you leave, ask, did I make this atmosphere better? This is kingdom leadership. This is quiet confidence in motion. This is the dignity of a man who knows he was not abandoned to the room. He was assigned to it. Lift your hands and say, I will represent well. Not loudly only, not emotionally only. Represent well. In your office, represent well. In your house, represent well. In your marriage, represent well. In your business, represent well. In your leadership, represent well. In your conflict, represent well. Because when you remember you were sent, you stop begging rooms to approve you and start bringing the king's culture into them. And that is where dignity begins. Write this down, please. Quiet confidence is the dignity of a kingdom citizen. It is not shyness. It is not weakness. It is not fear. It is the settled posture of a man who knows his source, knows his government, knows his assignment, and knows the king who sent him. We begin with presence before speech. Before your mouth speaks, your life is already talking. Then we move to representation before recognition. You do not demand respect because you are not a private citizen begging for attention. You are an ambassador carrying another government. Then we came to government before expression because a man who cannot govern his own spirit cannot represent the king accurately. Then substance before visibility because respect is attracted to weight, not noise. Then composure before dominion, because dominion begins where reaction ends. Are you with me? This is the progression of kingdom leadership. God is not raising noisy performers. He is raising mature representatives. He is not impressed by people who can shout in public but cannot govern themselves in private. He is not impressed by platforms without principle, titles without temperament, gifts without government, visibility without virtue, insanity. The kingdom does not need more people begging rooms to notice them. The kingdom needs men and women who can carry authority without advertising insecurity. So I challenge you now, give the king 1 week of ambassadorial conduct. 1 week, fewer reactions, clearer words, deeper preparation, stronger restraint, visible kingdom culture. Before you answer, pause. Before you defend yourself, pause. Before you correct someone, check your spirit. Before you enter the room, remember your government. Before you leave the room, ask whether heaven was represented well. Let your family see the kingdom this week. Let your workplace see the kingdom this week. Let your staff see the kingdom this week. Let your enemies see the kingdom this week. Let people experience a person who is not ruled by pressure, not ruled by offense, not ruled by applause, not ruled by fear. A country is walking into the week quietly, steadily, faithfully. Now I want you to make a declaration, not just with your mouth, but with your decision. Comment the truth you are choosing to live out. Say, I move as an ambassador. Say, I represent before I react. Say, I carry kingdom authority with quiet confidence. Let that confession become policy for your conduct. Let it remind your soul that you are not independent. You belong to the King. And if this teaching is helping you recover God's original purpose for leadership, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to lead with presence, not pressure, not for entertainment, for transformation, for restoration, for the recovery of kingdom identity in men and women who forgot they were sent. Lift your hands for a moment and say, I will represent the King well. Come on, say it again. I will represent the King well. Walk into this week quietly, but not weakly. Humbly, but not insecurely. Calmly, but fully aware that heaven has representation in the room. Do not beg for respect. Carry dignity. Do not chase recognition. Carry substance. Do not react like a slave to atmosphere. Govern yourself like a citizen of the kingdom. Quiet confidence commands respect because it carries the dignity of the King who sent you. So go into every room as one who has been sent and represent him well.